Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting to all of us. Hello, welcome to the presentation of my research on this auspicious occasion. Hopefully, it can provide new knowledge for all. For further, allow me to thank you, my research supervisor, namely Mr. Dr. Mardi, MSE, and Mr. Dr. Ahmad Fauzi, SPDMAK, for the knowledge and direction given to the researcher. Title of the research that I took was the effect of the capital adequacy ratio and performing loan and debt to equity ratio on the return of the fund and asset. The object of my research is being listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange. For the preliminary, this is any table that contribution of the financial industry to Indonesian GDP. As as this result, the data above is taken based on the contribution of the banking sector in 2020. 21 from the data showing the small contribution to GDP. Behind it, there are still problems. Next, about return on asset ROA on the third quarter in September 2018 until 2021, sourced by OJK. Return on asset is obtained from the profit generated from the management of banking companies. One of them relates to how banks channel their credit. Low interest from the public for credit. And next, about capital adequacy ratio as the first variable X. Capital adequacy ratio in Indonesia is 24.53% on February 2021 until January 2022 is 25 and 78%. The highest percentage is on January 2022 and the lowest is on December at 2011. The source is by Bank Indonesia and OJK. Next, about non-performing loan. According to the financial services and the ratio of NPL in the banking sector in January 2022 is 3%, about 3% in gross and 0.80% on net. On February 2021 is about 3% and there is an increase in gross and net. During the 2021 period, the gross NPL amount was at the level of 3.17% and on the net basis of 1.03%. At the end of 2020 period, the gross NPL amounted to 3.06%. Under this condition of increased credit risk, the credit disbursement also contracted by 2.15 in February, an increase from the previous month's contraction. And next, debt to equity ratio. Engaged in financial sector industry or bank insurance that can penetrate 5 or 6 times. There's data about there at several banks in Indonesia. Bank BRI is 5.7 times. Bank Mandiri by 5.6 and Bank BCA 4.5 and then Bank BNI 6.3. And this is about questions of the research. First, is there an influence between the capital adequacy ratio on return on asset? And second, is there an influence between the non-performing loan on return on asset? Is there an influence between the debt to equity ratio on return on asset? This is relevant research that I took is from Sutrisno in 2018 with the title Pengaruh Debt to Equity Ratio, Capital Adequacy Ratio, and NPL LDR on Return on Asset. And then Ziospita in 2019, and then Talisay et al. In 2020, and then Hantono and Pratama in each in 2017 and 2019. Next, about the theory of return on asset. Return on asset is the ratio between profit before tax to total assets. The greater the ROI indicates the better financial performance because the rate of return is getting bigger. If ROI increases, it means that the company's profitability increases, so the final impact is an increase in profitability enjoyed by shareholder by Pinasti and at 2018. The formula of ROI is net profit divided by total asset times 100% as constant. And then capital adequacy ratio is namely the capital adequacy that serves to accommodate the risk of loss that may be faced by the bank. This is Sutrisno said in 2018. And the current formula is equity divided by ATMR times 100% as constant. Next is NPL. Show the ability of the bank management to manage non-performing loans provided by banks. If a bank has a high NPL condition, it will increase other costs so that it has the potential to cause bank losses. Is Sudarmawanti and Pramono said at 2017. The formula of NPL is NPL divided by total credit times 100% as constant. And then the next one is debt to equity ratio conceptual definition. Debt to equity ratio is a financial ratio chosen as a representation of the solvency ratio, in which this ratio is a comparison of the capital obtained by the company either from internal namely stakeholder or from external namely creditors by Talisa and Al at 2020. And formula of there is total debt divided by total equity times 100%. And there is my hypothesis in this research. There is an effect on capital adequacy on return on asset. There is an effect on NPL on return on asset. There is an effect on debt ratio on return on asset. This is a research method. The time that I took for the method is July 2022, and the research object is banking company listed on IDX, and how to collecting data is with secondary annual report banking company on IDX, and the method is quantitative research method. This is relationship constellation about car NPL there on return on asset, and this is my population research. Our banking companies listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange in 2018, totaling 43 bank companies. The sampling purpose of sampling technique is with a total of 41, and the criteria sample banking companies incorporated in the IDX that have financial statement in rupiah for the 2018 period. Banking companies are members of IDX with the confirmation of annual report and not the listing. And then my data analysis technique is using simple linear regression and Lisa analysis, descriptive and statistical analysis, and normality test, linearity test, and then classical assumption test, and then hypothesis test with the test coefficient and F test. I'm using software SPSS. And we're going through the results and discussion. First is discussion statistic. This is a table of each variable in my research. The first is return on asset, has the highest value of 3.64 from PT Bank Mega, and the lowest score is minus 4.08 from PT Bank Popin, which means the data range for ROA is minus 4.08 to 3.64 is a 7. And the second one is capital adequacy ratio as a variable X has the highest value from PT Bank Amar Indonesia, and the lowest score is PT Bank G Trust Indonesia, which means data range from CAR is 44. Next, non-performing loan. Non-performing loan has the highest score from PT Panin Dubai Syariah Bank, and the lowest score is PT Bank Capital Indonesia, which means data range from this NPL is 12.12. And the next, debt to equity ratio has the highest score from PT Bank BTN, and the lowest score is from PT Bank Amar Indonesia, which means the data range from this non-performing loan is 13, and it is a normality test. There is a one sample called Mogorov-Smirnov test, and the graphic or the picture of a normative plot of regression. And there is a linearity test that we assume that this linearity has a good result for this research. This is a non-performing loan on return on asset, and then return on asset with debt to equity ratio with a good linearity. And there is a heteroscedasticity test. This is table, and this is the scatter plot about the ROR and distribution of the data. And there is, and then multicollinearity test that I took. There is no multicollinearity in this data, so we can assume to next test that multiple regression analysis as a result. And next, t-test. This is the table of the t-test result. Each one variable x to on the variable y. And this is the discussion about t-test. Based on data of above, the value of the count of the car is a negative position, which means the result with its word, and for this result in x1 variable, namely car, has no significant effect on ROA because the result and the count is lower than the table, and the NPL variable has some, which means that the result value of the count variable, which make the conclusion that NPL variable has a significant negative effect on the ROI variable, and the next there has negative effect significantly on the ROI variable. And then we're going through the if test. This is table of the if test. The result of the if count is 14.7, while F table is 2.7 with the test criteria for significant relationship. Then with the result of the F count, it can be concluded that there is significant influence between the independent variables, namely capital adequacy ratio, non-performing loan, and the only dependent variable, return on asset. This is the parity test with the probability value with the result. Then the hypothesis is accepted and HA is rejected. So it can be concluded that there is no difference in the effect of capital ratio, non-performing debt to equity ratio, return on asset before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this, we're going through the discussion. The result above show that car has no effect on ROA. This is line with Malini at 2017, and with Pratama and Ishnuwardana entitled and that there is no effect of car on ROA. And the next, NPL has negative effect on ROA. This is in line with search with Panta and Stephen King that there is an effect on NPL on return on asset. And then there has a negative effect on ROA. This result is in line with the result of research conducted by Suspita and Halim Cecilia, which states that there has an influence on ROA. And then the result above show that car NPL there have an effect on ROA. This is in line with research Suspita and Yadna and Sutrishna in 2018. There is no difference in this research variable before and during the COVID pandemic. In line with the research, this is also Ayuni Institute Morang and Sutrishna at 2020 that there is no difference in the financial performance variable on banking companies. And we're going through our finished presentation, and the next is closing. And there are several parts In a closing, the first conclusion, there is no significant negative effect between CAR on ROA in the banking companies, which means that higher the company's CAR, the ROA it occurs is not necessarily the higher, and is not significant. And then there is significant negative effect between their on ROA in manufacturing company listed on the IDX, which means the higher the company's debt, lower the ROA it occurs significantly. Conversely, if the company's debt is lower, the company's ROA will be significant. And then there is no difference between current PLDR and ROA in banking company listed on IDX before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. This shows that the pandemic condition do not encourage banking companies to risk management of bank financial performance. And there is an implication from the result. CAR has no effect on ROA, indicating that the amount of capital indirectly affect ROA. NPL has an effect on ROA, indicating that amount of NPL determines bank ROA. And next, limitation of the research. This research is only limited to banking companies listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange, which are only 337 companies, so that they cannot represent the company's overall condition. The observation period is in this study only used a short period of time, and namely during comparison of 2 years, namely in 2019, because the research result to be less representative within a certain period of time. The result of the study indicate that current PL during the pandemic and before pandemic have a limited time span and under special condition. Then there are other factors that can support or determine the high or low ROA. And then this is the suggestion for the recession and investor banking companies. Thank you. There is my presentation. Thank you.